All right. Welcome to the Hypnosis Hero podcast. Of course, recorded live with no errors. This is amazing. I think this is a first. No actual errors on the startup. So you should see us live on Facebook, either on my page, the Hypnosis Hero page, or you should see us live on YouTube, again, on my page or on the Hypnosis Hero YouTube channel. We have a really great show coming up here, but I have to tell everybody, and I'm going to tell on myself. Winter, of course, can be really fun in Canada. However, there's no real end to it, and so anybody who's taken a look at my Facebook in the last 20 minutes, you'll see what my day was like. And I had a sound check to do in another city, so I drove out to that city, through all of that, and then came back, and it was. It was a real mess. Let's put it that way. The sound check did go absolutely perfect, and I found out that on my last show we actually made money. We didn't just break even, which is even better. So I've had good news despite the bad weather. So all right. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring on my co-host, the co-host emeritus, Mr. Brian Bay.
Hey, how you doing, Sean?
Good. You're looking a little different, Brian.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's all there.
So yeah, I'm going to sound a little different tonight, but like Grant Saunders said, he was like, get that retainer thingy and like go read a book out loud. So I've been trying to, like, talk on the phone all day, everything like that. So tonight is going to help out, and we're all going to make fun of me at my expense. But okay. Do you want to give a shout out to
make fun of the weather? So
we'll do that too. So, but we'll shout out to Becca. She's joining us from England.
Nice. We've got lots of people rolling into TikTok even.
Oh, good.
So
I've got you up on Facebook Live and on your hypnosis page.
Okay.
Or the YouTube channel.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to guess that's where Becca is joining from. Yep. Looks like
somewhere,
yeah. All good. Look, you know what? The technical stuff, eventually, we will sort it all out, and we will have one home on YouTube, one home on Facebook, and then, we'll get a new home for Hypnosis Hero on TikTok. But it takes time to develop all of that, and until then, we'll just keep rolling with
percussive maintenance.
So
you just keep giving it the old Fonzarelli fix.
That we call it percussive maintenance in the IT business.
Yeah.
We had a monitor, one of the really big old monitors, look like a big TV. And
you're smacking on the side enough times.
Well, it would flicker, right? And because it was a big 27-inch monitor, it was really heavy. Nobody wanted to move it. And my buddy from IBM said, "You know what? Close the door. Don't let any kids in, because it's a computer lab. We didn't want the students to see what we were doing." Just kind of felt down the side, bang, and it was the best monitor ever. In fact, I kept it through the next 7 or 8 years.
I'm laughing how you said big 27-inch monitor.
That's what it was back then. Because I'll tell you, I'm looking at a 27-inch monitor here, and it weighs less than a quarter of what that monster.
Oh, it probably weighs 10% of that.
Yeah, and it probably takes up 10% less packaging and all of that kind of stuff too. The way they package things now, it's actually kind of freaky just how little packaging things come in. Like when we unbox laptops now, it's like less than a quarter of what used to be there. So
yeah, I used to pull stuff out, and all the styrofoam little floaties would stick to you, and they go everywhere. It's a nightmare to vacuum up. And
now it's just static charge plastic that you have to.
Oh God, don't get me started. Yeah, when we started on static electricity in Vegas, my God, it was so dry out there, and
it was shocking, wasn't it?
You touch anything, it's like, bzz, but
all good. So tonight we have actually
got a couple of guests.
We have two guests. This will be the first time that we've had 4 screens going since our announcement about Jim.
Yeah.
Just thinking about that the other day, it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute, we're gonna have 4 screens.
Didn't we have Grant on with somebody too?
Nope,
or
just
that was
me and Grant.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that in mind,
God, time for double your pleasure, double your fun.
Well, this is true. So we've got David Ruby and Gina Ruby. They are the co-founders of Work Well Hypnosis. They specialize in working with organizations to reduce employee stress, increase productivity, address confidence issues, manage team cohesion, as well as offering wellness benefit programs. Something that I can tell you, working in a large organization like a school division, 100%, absolutely. There are lots of corporations and companies that can make use of that, and too often I think we are the we're thought of last when we should be right at the very top of the list. So David and Gina also find satisfaction in working with individuals to achieve their full potential, eliminating the unwanted habits like smoking and overeating, increasing performance at work or on sports teams. And we were talking just before the broadcast about hypnosis and sports. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Resolving phobias and anything else holding them back. Dave and Gina offer a dynamic option that helps you go inside your mind to find the root of the problem. And with over 10 years of experience, a number of certifications and degrees between them, they will help you discover a clear, balanced mental state. So with that in mind, please welcome to the podcast, the Hypnosis Hero podcast, David and Gina. And we're going to do that and that and that. There we go. Sound effects and everything. All right. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So you guys are located in Wisconsin.
Correct.
So no snow for you. Anybody who's not seen my Facebook post, I'll still complain that there's snow on the ground because it's Canada, but that's okay. Brian will just say, yeah, just eat your maple syrup.
58 degrees and hardly a cloud in the sky right now.
Yeah. See, you guys in your freedom units, it's -2 here.
Let me convert.
Yeah, there you go. And let me convert. That's right. You should convert to Canadianism.
So we do get some cold in Wisconsin, believe it or not. It's not all rainbows and sunshine or whatever, but
you guys get Lambo cold.
Yeah, that's we not necessarily this time of year, but yeah, like Lambo cold is. I think the coldest I experienced. I think I went to when I was in undergrad. I went to school, college, obviously, and I got there, and I think I want to say the wind chill was -80 or something ridiculous like that. And I found out that school was canceled after I walked to the facility, and the teacher looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why are you here? Then I had to walk back, and it was painful to walk. So we get cold here. It's just not -2 this time of year.
And Lambeau Field is an outdoor field, so it's like the grass in the ground freezes, so like you get tackled and drop somebody. I mean, it would be softer falling on concrete.
Well, I don't actually play for the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if you know that. I just watch the games, but yeah, when you actually go to the games and it's like winter, it's fun, and then it gets cold, so it's uncomfortable, and then you lose sensation in your body, so it's just it's a football field, but it's fun. It's great field.
Yeah,
we've had a few of those types of games in the CFL when it was.
I'm sure.
Yeah, the fog bowl where you couldn't actually see the ball. The snow bowl. Definitely, there were a few of those where they couldn't see the yard lines.
Yes.
And then there was one played actually here in Saskatchewan. It was like -42. I don't know how the players actually survived.
They only died in a spiritual level, I'm sure. But that's awesome.
I'm sure they had heated benches and the torpedo heaters and
no, this is Saskatchewan. We don't do that outside. We save the heat for inside. And oddly enough, when we built our new stadium, we still built an outdoor stadium. So, oh well, what can you say? Okay, enough about the weather because I don't want it to. I don't want it to seem like I'm bitter or anything. That's for the cold.
15 degrees Celsius in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, it was that. It was oddly enough. It was that yesterday here, so that tells you just how quickly it changes. Let's talk about Work Well Hypnosis, and so I'm judging by the last name. There's a connection.
You'd be correct.
How did you guys get into hypnosis? How did you guys get going with Work Well Hypnosis?
Yeah,
And
kind of take us from the beginning. Like what?
Yeah,
I'll throw it out to each one of you guys. What was your individual interest? How did that develop, or what were some influences that helped you in your journey into where you're at now?
I'm going to have Dave go first because he started before I did, and then I'll let you know how it all looped in together.
Oh, if that's not like a tactical woman, he started it thing. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, if you want to freak out I used part of this joke. Actually, I used this joke at my presentation earlier today. But if you want to freak out your spouse or your family, tell them either that you're training to be a hypnotist or that you're training to be a proctologist. You get the same level of shock and horror. But my interest was I was a medical librarian. So when people say do your research, like that was actually me for 11 years. So I would do research on things, and I thought hypnosis. I thought it was bunk. I thought it was total hogwash. Fill in the blank. I thought it was interesting, but it's probably nothing to it. But I was a PubMed jockey, so I would go and look online, and I researched it. And to this day, what still fascinates me most is probably like the Esdale type stuff where it was used for surgery. I figured if it could help you to like feel more relaxed or quit smoking or reduce anxiety, you could fake that, or it might be coincidental. You can't really fake not being in pain during like a surgery or your amputation. Like that was pretty hard to fake. So I'm like, that is something to that. And so that was kind of my interest. I think Gina and I both had interest in psychology. So obviously power of the mind and doing self-work to kind of improve yourself however you could. But really the surgical anesthesia was kind of where it kind of, stuck for me. And then I've got to learn this. Then I took every training under the sun, it seems like, and saw clients, and here we are. And Gina can tell you her origin story, which dovetails nicely into mine.
Yeah. So I have an education in psychology. That was my undergrad degree. And then I earned a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, where I studied kind of a range of all things work related. So laid a foundation for what became my day career as in human resources. So I learned about employment law, all kind of like the nuts and bolts about HR. And then it also delved into things like motivation, job stress, motivation and emotion, all that kind of stuff. So that's my educational background. And that kind of was the inspiration for Work Well Hypnosis. So as I said, that kind of laid this foundation for a career in HR. I currently am working in my 23rd year in human resources. And one day I got to thinking, like, there's got to be another way to address things like job stress, motivation, job satisfaction, addressing employee relations issues when two employees just don't get along, that kind of thing. So there's a lot about the work environment that you can't change, but what you can change is how the employee reacts to a job stressor or a conflict with an employee, things like that. So it was more of addressing things on an individual level that I thought would be very helpful in the workplace. So I got to this point in my career where I just kind of felt like I needed a little bit of a change, just a little bit of a diversion. So I still work in human resources, but again, I just felt like I needed to do something kind of on the side, just to kind of branch out, learn a new skill, kind of get out of the routine of the day-to-day. So I was kind of looking into some different options, taking some different classes. I even thought about going back to grad school for clinical psychology, but nothing really resonated. And one day I picked up my phone. I was just kind of bored, and I noticed that a friend of mine was offering a class on hypnosis. And I thought, this must be the answer. And Dave already had this, background in it, so I could rely on him for many existing resources right in our home. So that's how I got into it. So it's kind of a trifecta of my past educational background, and then this career in human resources, where again, I just kept thinking there's got to be another way to address employee issues that we encounter on a regular basis. And then, like I said, I was just kind of seeking for something new, just something to enrich my life. And that's kind of how I took this path. And initially,
now were you and Dave dating or married at the time that all this took place?
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about this. So we've been married, oh gosh, I know our anniversary is in June. Is it 23 years? It's the same.
Get the recording, Dave. Put this in your back pocket. Save it for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been married a really long time. When Dave started the hypnosis career, I was stunned. He wasn't joking about what he said. With, if you want to shock your family with what you're studying. So, but, I just kind of let him do his thing. It seemed like a really good outlet for him. But I was really busy. I really had no interest in pursuing another career. But yeah, we were married. When he started it, we had at least one young child. We have two now. I can't remember exactly when he started, but so I was busy kind of like taking care of them, working my full-time job. So it's kind of his own thing. But then our kids got older. And like I said, I was just looking for just taking a little bit of a different path, just finding something new to learn that could, potentially lead to an enriching side career.
Yeah. So people often ask me, I don't understand why people, but they're like, so did you hypnotize Gina to marry you? I'm like, no, we'd been married forever before that happened. We'd been married for a long time, and it was just something that I have extravagant and outlandish hobbies, and this was what became a hobby of mine. And then, kind of became like a side career and became something I'm looking to do, like is my, my life goal now, I suppose, is to do hypnosis as something to help people and make a positive impact in the world.
Yeah, there's a healthy return on investment there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think over time, I think having a lot of hypnotists, if anyone's hypnotist watching this, I think it's common to like learn the stuff and be excited about it and go like do it with other people. But for me, at least, took a while to actually apply it to myself. And I actually, quick story is, I took Connie Ray Andreas's core transformation. Like that's core transformation, wholeness work from Connie Ray Andreas. Brilliant modalities. I love them to pieces. But I was taking the coaching certification with Tamara and Mark Andreas, who are wonderful trainers and ridiculously nice people. And when you know it, as I'm starting this, COVID hit. So I had they had this 30-day core transformation challenge. And I think it's a good idea to take what you know with hypnosis or any kind of change modality and apply it. So I had 30 days of doing core transformation every day. And all of a sudden the world's kind of gone to pot outside. And I still felt I wasn't like a automaton, I wasn't a robot, but it didn't hit me quite the same way. It didn't hit me as hard. And when I would get bummed out about the world kind of falling to pieces, it didn't stick as long. I was able to recover and kind of self-reflect and move on. And that's kind of stuck with me. So that was a big thing where the return on investment for me was actually applying this to myself. I also had a friend who passed away, and I used EFT to kind of control the grief. I was maybe not the smartest because I didn't want to get rid of it entirely for whatever reason. It felt important to have something. I didn't want to feel nothing about it, but it did help me to control it so I could feel something that I felt important at that time, but it wasn't this overwhelming, ocean of grief all the time. So it was a good, it gave me a lot of buy-in for the techniques.
Yeah, the COVID world obviously turned everything upside down. I actually my origin story is actually kind of similar to both of you. It's it was a recognition, and this would be about 2012, that there's got to be a better way to deal with this. Everybody's stress levels going up. The Mayan calendar says the world is coming to an end. It's starting to sound familiar.
Yeah.
And the stress levels, I don't ever think they came down from that.
Yeah. God, you remember when the world was supposed to end when 1999 was going to go into 2000, and all the computers were going to reset, and the
Yes.
economy was going to implode. And
Yeah, the only
that
guy
didn't
who was
happen
really
until
worried about
2008.
that was me. I had a whole network of machines that
Yeah.
I needed to make sure still worked after Christmas holidays. So it just to me it was wild, and we needed something different. And so similarly, like you said, you get a reaction. So I told my boss, who is still a friend of mine, even though he's long since retired. And now you have to picture this. This guy is kind of like Jim, 6'4", and generally a fairly decent fellow. I walk in, I say, "Hey, guess what? I got my hypnosis certification." And he whipped around in his chair so fast, that's fastest I've ever seen him move. And he says, "I am never looking you in the eyes ever again." and ever since then, it's either been that or, "Wow, that's kind of cool. Tell me about it," or the one we all get, "Hypnotize me. Just come on, you're the hypnotist. You just hypnotize me." So, but yeah, I told him, I said, "Look, if you're not gonna look out for me, I'll at least watch for you in the hallway so you don't run me over." But yeah, and I get it from students that find out, because I still work in the school division as a digital learning consultant. So when I am out and about with students or with teachers, they'll mention it. Kids will go nuts, and then they'll all say, "Well, hypnotize me." And I turn to them and I say,
"Do your
How
homework."
do you know you're not hypnotized already? Oh, the looks on their faces, it's like total shock. So
it'll be like, "Do vegetables taste good yet?" "No, they don't." I'm just starting. I'm not very good yet."
So yeah, no, it's funny because, and you mentioned weird hobbies. Well, yeah, I was that weird kid, growing up, for at least as much as I actually grew up, all 5'3.5" of me. So Becca's she's either telling you or me to do homework.
Oh yeah. She,
Right.
I think she was replying to my thing of do your homework, and she's laughing at that.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that we had to convince people that they should actually do the work. So, but yeah, for me growing up, it was, things like Dungeons and Dragons. Well, that was, frowned upon by pretty much every religious organization. And, there's all kinds of other things that I, was a hobby. And I can probably now quote a lot of TV shows to you because I grew up in the country with a satellite dish. So what else are you going to do? Right? So there you go, Brian. Eat your vegetables.
Someone needs to hypnotize Becca that I am not a rabbit.
So if I reach down, watch me pull a rabbit out of my...
It's turned into a very different kind of show than I was promised.
Yeah, there you go. Tricks rabbit. There you go.
Very nice.
Anyway,
we could totally do something where it's like, okay, a hand comes down and like.
Then I need a cardboard cutout of you to go like this.
That
would have been nice.
Yeah, I duck out of frame and just pull myself up.
We'll,
special effects are the next thing on our bag of tricks.
I'll write it down.
Very nice.
So we mentioned also, off the top and in your intro, working with corporations and companies and not just individuals, to really get in there and help change. For lack of a better term, it would almost be excavating the culture and putting in something that actually functions as a proper entity, if we will. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like and what that might actually entail when it comes to working, not just with an individual. You're working with a department or a whole company.
Yeah, so the best way I describe it is that it's a non-traditional approach to addressing issues like employee stress in a group setting. So, say you could take a department of anywhere from, guess the size doesn't even really matter. I think I would say between like 10 and 20 people is ideal, just so you have, a little bit more of an intimate setting in order to answer questions, things like that. And it could also be an employee health benefit. So we could offer a program to a group of people for things like smoking cessation, vaping cessation, weight management, things like that. So just kind of a non-traditional approach to offering a benefit to your employees.
We also had some luck doing things where you do group settings that are kind of meant more for, it could be more like offering a certain skill, like relaxation is a generic one, but it's still a viable one. Or doing a workshop for like weight loss or smoking. Again, your stereotypical types, or working on something for conflict resolution, getting along with your peers, even making like work a more enjoyable place to be. But we've had luck doing things like in a group setting, and then have people that can reach out to us for individual needs beyond that. So you can kind of do something that's more global for whatever the business is looking to do with employees, or even just something that's more enjoyable. Hypnosis can be fun, and it can be relaxing, and it can also like have cross-for benefits. But you have some kind of more general topic you focus on with the group. Then you can kind of do breakdowns with individual people. And I think what I like, I really started to enjoy group work because you can kind of see who's really keying in. You can kind of like subtly give them the little Ericksonian suggestions and the nonverbal encouragement. And then, individual will come up to you. Hopefully they'll have a great experience. I've had pretty good luck with that, to be honest. But then, I've really been looking to like, do this in my life. It could be, personal weight loss or smoking. Those are obvious. Or, having like a more spiritual direction, or things that are just kind of whatever's individual to the person. So you get to reach a lot more people, hopefully change a culture in a business, let them enjoy what they're going to do anyway for 40 hours a week. And if there's something beyond that, you get to kind of delve a little deeper. It widens your scope, and you help more people, I think, in one setting.
Yeah, and as far as like individual things that are work related, self-esteem, self-confidence, those are common things that come up. So you oftentimes see a person who's very accomplished in terms of education, things like that, but they just can't get to that next level in their career. So it's like, what's holding them back? And it can be things like limiting beliefs, self-confidence, self-esteem, and hypnosis is a perfect tool to address some of those issues.
But without getting into any identifying information or anything like that, in your experience in HR, what are the common things that you see that are conflicts or challenges in the workplace?
Yeah, so I've worked in what I think is some of the most stressful work settings. I've worked in 24/7 institutions most of my career.
Mm-hmm.
So employees, the bulk of the employees are required to work forced overtime.
Are these in like a medical setting or?
Yeah, I've worked in different settings,
Okay.
institutional settings. So I've worked at a psychiatric hospital, some prisons, things like that. So our employees, in many cases, are required to work overtime shifts. So these things, they're mandatory. There's no two ways about it. So they're working long hours together. And the things that I've seen spawn out of those, I mean, obviously the employees are stressed and fatigued. They miss their families. They can't get basic things done like laundry and shopping and all that kind of stuff, just because it just takes up so much of their time. So I just think if you can address a way to address that problem on a subconscious level, on how to address that stress better, it's going to kind of have this trickle down effect. So if they can feel better about, you just have a better mental state coming into work and knowing they have these long hours ahead of them, without kind of, feeling like the world is dissolving at their feet because they can't, manage things. So I think, it's really kind of addressing these issues where we can't change the work environment, but addressing work stress in a way that is healthy and beneficial to them. And also bleeds into other areas, just like with conflicts with their coworkers. There's definitely tools that we can use to address some of those things so they can kind of just neutralize some negative feelings that they might have with coworkers.
Okay. And it sounds, from what I'm understanding, that if if there is conflict between coworkers, or even like what you were talking about, working in a prison setting, if you have people that their head's not 100% in the ball game, that's now like an officer safety thing.
Absolutely.
And then which trickles down to safety of the inmates and everybody else, that, that, especially in prison or any type of corrections facility, that has the potential to go real sideways real fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how much of that is also trying to listen to the people in what I would call kind of the boots on the ground, and then you realize, like, look, management has to, there's only so much that you can just tell people, work more overtime before people get burned out, and you go, look, like, there's, you need to have management have a change in thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, there's only so much we can do, in terms of addressing some of those workplace issues. So, again, that was kind of my inspiration for Work Well Hypnosis, is that, hopefully employees come to us who are running into some of these issues where they feel like, most people have to work. They can't just up and change their jobs. But if they can find some kind of therapeutic way to address what they're feeling in terms of work, if it's job stress or, imposter syndrome or, self-confidence issues, if they can find ways to address those, it's going to be beneficial not only for them, but for their employer as well.
You just have them self-create a rage room in one of the closets somewhere.
Right.
There are other less valid options. So.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange to me because, I'm just north of Seattle, and so Bellevue, Redmond, you've got Microsoft, and a lot of the software guys, Microsoft wants you behind a computer as writing code as much as you want. So you're like, oh, you need a personal shopper, you want someone, we want your car to get detailed, or an assistant to go do all these things. Like, they'll throw money left and right at taking care of those things. But a lot of the industries that are out there, there's not that luxury in the resources available, which is terribly unfortunate. And you're just like, we need more staffing to do these jobs.
Yeah, I could use a personal assistant in my job, and I would be, as a digital learning consultant, considered probably the lower part of middle management. And I know how much stuff I need to get done in a day, and yeah, a personal assistant would be awesome.
Yeah, because they don't want people
No money for that.
I mean, like, a friend of mine had a contract with Boeing for his industrial massage. And he was like, he put it out to Boeing. It's a net benefit that you guys can offer, that people are getting a 30-minute massage on the clock, and that cut down in L&I claims, injuries, people quitting their job. They were able to go through and not have to pay out disability stuff because just people weren't getting hurt.
Yeah,
and it's easier for people to just run down the hall, get a massage, rather than, I've got to clock out, run 15-20 minutes to the parking lot to get in my car, then run somewhere else. And that 35 minutes saves 3 hours plus of productivity.
Yeah, that and the rest of the day, they're likely more relaxed. They're probably more focused. It's probably job loyalty, job satisfaction. So there's a nice cascade effect from that.
Yeah, and and giving people that little bit of a break of clear head, and you just have a chance to woo-saw, just let stuff go.
Whenever I was in, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, part of our training involves a lot of kind of take-home techniques for employees or our individual clients. So, when we're facing a group, we can teach them really quick, efficient, but effective tools for them to use throughout their work day and work week when we're not there. Like David mentioned, EFT, or tapping, as most people refer to it as. Very effective, easy, that they can do on their own when they're feeling stressed or overwhelmed or not feeling as confident, whatever negative emotion that they want to get away from. Very simple take-home techniques too we can offer.
Yeah, because you don't want to come home and scream at the wife and yell at the dog, and you know, because then nobody wants to be around you.
All right.
I think that's the thing. Like, people look at us, like I said, we're kind of the last line of defense before, you know, they totally give up. And in reality, I think that if hypnotists were kind of at the front of that, there would be a whole lot less coming behind it that you know, we generally speaking couldn't deal with. I think what we have in hypnosis are tools that are so effective that people just, well, literally, they don't realize that you know, they were thinking one way a moment ago, now they're thinking a completely different way. And it's not that we're, you know, controlling minds. It's them. It's that we're helping them control their minds better. You know, and that's the way I often explain it. It's not, if I could do mind control, would I be out here with all this nice weather?
Yeah,
I would be out with the unwashed riffraff of the world.
I would be on an island somewhere with umbrella drinks and.
No, my
and
big
a full
thing,
bank account.
that. Now my gauntlet thrown down, and when people say that it is mind control, and I get the argument, because, you know, like if you say don't think of a purple elephant, well, you have to think of a purple elephant, and you're controlling minds that way. Or if you think something more nefarious. But if anyone actually thinks that, my challenge has been, go to a prison or go to a mental hospital or go to some, you know, so go to a hospital where people are really sick mentally, and, you know, just suggest they live happier, healthier lives. You'd be heralded as a hero. You'd make a ton of money, and you know, there'd be so much good. Like, you know, no one's doing that. At least not like on some, like.
It's like people, you know, if you had somebody claim cops are manipulators. Yeah, you know what? Manipulate away if you can use the verbal judo and de-escalate somebody from, you know, doing a swan dive off of a bridge or something like that. You know, hey, manipulate all you want. It's the context in, you know, I mean, our conscious choice that we have every day is a form of mind control or self-control. And, you know, I totally agree with you.
One thing that I lost my train of thought.
Oh,
at a
mine's
wonderful
still boarding
point,
at the station.
it's gone. You'll never hear it.
Well, again, circling back, so the tools that we have definitely, you know, like I said, I think they are more effective at helping people, you know, and probably would be even more effective if they would come to us before trying everything else. You know, oftentimes, like I said, by the time they get to us, they're disillusioned. They think it's the last resort. It's the magic that's going to save them, and they forget that it is rooted in science, and there are scientific methods that we use to help people.
Yeah. And David, you were talking about people making the accusations that hypnosis is a form of mind control.
Yeah.
And then I got excited and jumped in. I absolutely apologize for that.
No, that was fine. It was a good addition. I think my point was that essentially that it's not mind control, but I think it's working with your mind. I think that you can learn to strengthen your. I don't think it's mind control even of yourself. I think it's training yourself to do something different. Like, there's one presupposition in NLP that any feeling, behavior, thought is there for some positive intention. I'm probably botching the actual quote, but there's some positive reason for it to exist. So if you get your unconscious mind to work with you, you're not controlling it as much as you're redirecting it, like, you know, redirecting a stream of water. You're not stopping the ocean or the river. You can direct it in a way that's more conducive.
So you're kind of developing a partnership or a relationship, if you will. Where I think it's very much we're going to work together on this.
Yeah, I never liked the idea of like controlling your unconscious mind, because, you know, that didn't seem very harmonious. And if you're trying to willpower your unconscious mind, there's a good chance that's going to end poorly for one of you, probably the conscious mind. I actually have a response to Becca's. Have you ever done stage show stuff, or does it interest you?
Yeah, I was going to wait till we had a little bit of a pause so I could ask that. But yeah, no,
actually,
you're doing great.
I've done one stage show in my life, and it was I didn't know I was doing a stage show. I thought I was doing like a little demo. This is back when I was a medical librarian, um, and it was like it was something for like the volunteers, and the guy's name was John, super nice guy. He's like, "Hey, would you be willing to do some little hypnosis demo?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Day before, like, so who's like the main gig for this thing? He's like, "You are." I'm like, "Shit." So I had to do this like kind of stage.
The price
really
just went up.
Yeah, it was a free. I got no money for this.
Oh,
But I did do like I found out like the hard way and what not to do for a stage show, which was to have one volunteer like, or let's do some magic stuff, kind of.
yeah.
I didn't call it that. But I did like, I think I did an arm stick. I did the whole James Tripp, poor man's James Tripp arm stick. And I tried a arm levitation or something like that. And it was okay, but clearly I had no rapport with this person because she didn't want to be in front of everyone she worked with to do some hypnosis stuff. I'd done more street stuff with people, just kind of more casually, where there's not 30 of their closest peers looking at them intently. I did when I was first starting out, I did work with a friend of mine who I found out inadvertently was a highly hypnotizable guy, really nice guy. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to hypnotize you. I promise I'm not going to hypnotize you. Let's just do something that'll be just like hypnosis. And if it's always like magnetic fingers is phrased as, or suggestibility tests. Well, it's not hypnosis. It'll be just like it. So I'm like, all right, now put your hands like this and look at your fingers and let them get magnetic. And I was more fluid than this. I'm rushing it a bit, but all of a sudden I'm like, all right, and as your fingers get close, they touch, and he was gone. I didn't even suggest he go in hypnosis. He just naturally went there. And at that point, I'm new to this, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh, I told him I was going to do this. Now he's hypnotized, and I felt like this, like I was too good for my own good, I guess. But I've done stuff like stage show stuff. I do like to give people an experience. I like presentations. Like I did one today for a networking group, and I did a group Dave Ellman induction, and it went really well. I'm not really necessarily interested or disinterested from stage show stuff. I do like to give people an experience, either in a talk or in a client session, so they have an experience. I've never actually pursued like stage stuff, just because I think I like the intimacy more of like a one-to-one or a group setting, like a smaller group. I think it could be a lot of fun and not necessarily very flashy. I tend to more for the Ericksonian stuff, which doesn't lend itself more for a lot of flash and pomp per se.
So your jam is a little bit more lower key and,
right.
and less entertainment versus a valuable experience.
Well, I'm entertaining, Brian, just not in that way.
Right.
No, I kid. But I like the Ericksonian, the gravelly voice, and the emphasis on the wrong syllables. But I like to, joking aside, I do like the idea of making people's lives better. And I think you can absolutely do that with stage stuff. I just haven't pursued it. But like that more one-to-one personal change. And you get to meet people on a level that they don't normally get to meet someone else with. And I don't know if stage show inherently has that. But there's probably someone who's doing my sort of take on it in a way that works in a stage setting.
What I've noticed, I've done a number of grad night shows and even comedy shows with Jim, and the majority of them it's over the years. The majority of the time I'm just behind the camera and I'm helping with little last minute stage setup and things like that. Is after the show, people come up and, oh my God, that was hilarious. It was so funny, blah, blah, blah. You mentioned at the beginning of the show that, hypnosis can be used for therapeutic stuff. But do you know anybody? And it's like they get that first little tidbit of, here's an example. It's not just acting that's made up. There's actually something to it, because they just watched their friend bark like a chicken on stage and whatnot. And then they're like, okay, well, now we've opened up our mind to the possibilities, and people will come up to do stuff for anxiety, and they begin to start telling you different aspects of their life. And, my thing's always been, let me get you one of Jim's cards.
Yeah. And did you really say bark like a chicken?
Bark like a chicken.
That's magnetic. That's magical right there.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jim did one of my favorite bits that Jim does, and it's only in appropriate settings.
It's only inappropriate, or it's only in inappropriate settings?
It's in a proper setting, or the proper or appropriate setting for this. Never with a grad night show or anything involving children, but he does this bit. It's usually towards the end, and it's like, okay, you open your eyes, and for guys, your genitals are missing. And he ties that into like an insurance claim, and just the most obnoxious, silly stuff comes out of people's mouths. And the intent there is not to embarrass or harass or anything like that, but it's like you put the hyperbole in there that is so far-fetched, it's so obnoxious that it's just absolutely silly, like Bugs Bunny type stuff.
Yeah.
And when people see their friends or other folks up on stage, it's like, oh, I know my friend would never do something like that. And then they go, boom, we're all silly, laughing, having a great time. They're the stars of the show. That's, like I said, that's when they go and like, well, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And then they want to go, do you offer these things? So it's a component. If nothing else, it gets people interested in what hypnosis is capable of. And then too, if you're able to influence somebody to make that positive change in their life in a therapeutic setting for whatever they're struggling with, I think that's a super huge value add.
Yeah, there's actually a college. When I was in college, there's a song on the radio, a King Missile song about that very scenario, and
about making it. Oh, okay. It's like making a positive difference in somebody's life.
No, losing your penis in the bar. It was
okay.
It was the '90s, folks. It was a different time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you can definitely make stage shows. You can have it funny and also have a point. I think the best comedy has a bit of heart in it. There's a message to it. And I think a good stage show can have that as well. It can be funny, but also there's something more to it. And I think, just to shout out to Jim, Jim was a very warm and funny character and very kind. And I could definitely see him weaving that into his show. And that matches what I know of him. So,
yeah. And one of the things I always respected about him and a lot of the other shows that I've seen is at the end of it, it was sort of his gift to all of the volunteers on stage. And he would be like, envision, a goal or something you want to achieve, and you're going to feel that manifest, and you'll recognize different things falling into place. And it's kind of those subtle suggestions of, if you're thinking about something like a particular vehicle, you're going to now start to see more of them all over the road. So it's like you're going to realize and recognize these different things that are falling into place, or these opportunities that are out there. And I think it just puts people in a different mindset to give them their confidence to make those moves in their lives.
Yeah, like every time you see a piece of pineapple, you just instantly are drawn to it and just want to. That was
Oh, I think I know what. I think I see how one of our other segments is going to go.
Speaking of which, we should mention that, Brian.
Yeah.
Cast your votes now, friend or frenemy. And you have to cast one vote for David and one vote for Gina.
And only answer, put like
friend
David names, hyphen, friend or frenemy, Gina's name, friend or frenemy. That's it. Don't say why or what it is. And you guys will see what this is about later on. It'll be fun.
I think I'm going to rename the game to the friend or frenemy secret question.
Yeah.
Because we've had a few people spoil it along the way. But that's okay.
And I'd be remiss if we Clarence popped in and said hi to everybody.
Clarence has been in our lives for the last little while, and we certainly appreciate him joining in. And of course, Becca, if you didn't know that, Becca's actually joining from the UK.
Oh, nice.
So for her, it's like 2:00 in the morning, I think, or pretty close to it.
She says, "Bark like a chicken or cluck like a dog." Could be both.
metaphors. As a teacher, I used to say it's not brain science, and the kids got it. They thought it was hilarious. Or I'm lying about it. I like mixed metaphors.
So Becca says, I think it's important in a stage show. It's good to think that the subjects have a gift at the end and a positive message, and she doesn't like the shows where it's just embarrassing them and taking the piss out of them.
Yes.
I'm sure that's making fun of them in metric. I have to throw that in there. I'm like, there might be something lost in translation.
Yeah, we might refer to it as taking the Mickey out of them.
Taking the Mickey? Wow, that's no. I've never heard that expression before.
Well, it's not about the mouse. Let's put it that way.
And demonetized.
That's usually the way it goes.
Usually that's my doing, but you're carrying the show
You've been
tonight,
pretty good
Shawn.
tonight, Brian. All things considered. I'm
with Becca though. I think that people's lives are challenging enough as it is, and I think if you can, comedy you can have dark comedy or comedy that can be edgy, but especially the hypnotist who does this stuff to make change. Like, people's lives are hard enough as it is, so I'd rather make your life better. And I don't want to laugh at your expense. I want to be laughing with you, not making something embarrassing or making you feel lesser because of spending time with me. So
that's what I tell people. I'm like, look, unless you participate in this, we're all just laughing at you, and we want to laugh with you. So we're all a team here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what David and Rebecca said. Sorry. I have no interest in stage hypnosis for myself, at least. Like, as a performer, I really like the one-on-one small group type of setting. I'm not a performer at all, and I think you have to have that element of just being able to perform and be funny in front of a large group of people. And I'm also not for like laughing at people. I think stage shows can be really fun and have a place. And I guess I didn't know that about Jim, how we always kind of like to instill something positive at the end. Like, that makes me admire him even more. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And he was, and that was the whole thing. It's like, we would do in his opening monologue, he would kind of give this quick Mythbusters, here's what hypnosis is, and here's, more importantly, what hypnosis is not. You're not going to get stuck in hypnosis like the movie Office Space. It's not going to be the, instant, your life changed and ability to pick winning lotto numbers. And we're not going to, pull your most intimate secrets and, none of this MK Ultra, you're going to strip off naked and go running across the stage. We're all going to have a good time. We're giving you an opportunity to be the stars of the show. And then at the end, we're going to have a gift for you, make some positive changes, and you guys all get to entertain the audience. And so when you're able to set it up and structure it that way, it both manages everybody's expectations, and, it allows people to feel more comfortable, because the last thing you need is people up on stage going, okay, I'm here because all of my friends pushed me and I really don't want to be here.
I have a solution for that. I call it elbowitis. And if you are infected with elbowitis, you get to come up with the person you're elbowing.
That's actually pretty clever.
Yeah, but what was really funny is like Jim shows, and especially the grad nights. I mean, the kids are hopped up on all sorts of energy drinks and sugar and running around. They're all super excited, and I mean, it's like everything you can do to hold them back and be like, look, not yet. Oh, can we run up? And then as soon as like, we're calling for volunteers, everybody come up and grab a chair. It's like clothes are coming off and they are just fighting each other for a spot. But it was really, it's great when you see a lot of enthusiasm with people, because it's super awkward when you're sitting there going like, we got 3 more chairs because there's only 3 people up there right now. Like, let's come on, everybody. And everybody's just looking around going 1, 2, 3, not it. But Tommy Girolando joining us.
Yep, all the way from Michigan, and he says, "Oh, I love that oboitis." Yeah, and it was a show exactly like Brian was describing, where I had three or four people that came up, and everybody else was going like this. I said, "No. If you're doing this, you're coming up with them." Well, that immediately stopped, and then a few people actually did get the gumption to come up and volunteer to be a star in the show. So, it happens. People in this type of situation, because it's something that they may not have seen before, or it's something that they perceive as quote unquote weird. They need to feel comfortable coming up on stage. So, and to Gina's point, not everybody is, and not everybody. The first thing I tell my volunteers is, you have to have a personality. If you don't have a personality, you're not coming up here. So that usually eliminates about half of them right off the bat. So, and I do it. I do that in a way, coming from the middle years school teacher, out crazy the crazy, and you kind of have to know where that line is that you can poke fun at them and still get a reaction out of them. So
yeah, you got to rib them a little bit. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you guys, and I'll throw this question out with a response from each one of you guys. If you guys are willing to share, is there a particular point that stood out where you really felt good about, making a positive change or a difference in someone's life, whether it was, professionally, HR, anything that was utilizing hypnosis to just have a real impact, or anything that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of the probably one that stands out the most was just helping somebody who they just had a lot of anxious feelings about taking an exam, and just anxious feelings in general towards speaking in front of large groups of people and things like that. And it was really a critical piece of her career to do these things. Like, she needed to take an exam to progress. And she had to make lots of presentations in her job. And she felt like I think she just kind of felt sort of small, and she wanted to just have that more confident personality. And honestly, we met once, and she's doing fantastic. When we met initially, I said, it's really hard to judge how many sessions you need. I said, it's probably a 3-session package, I'm thinking. And she's been doing great with one session. And it was one of those moments where it's like, I felt like I really did a thing, because, I've related with so many people who have kind of struggled to get to that next step in their career, or they feel kind of stuck. And I'm like, in an hour's work, it honestly didn't even feel like work for me. But, this hour that I spent with her, I feel like I turned things around. I think that's the one that really sticks out the most, because I feel like, she's kind of newer in her career, and she's got this whole work life ahead of her. And this might have impacted her in ways beyond measure, not only financially, but just with, climbing the career ladder, and I think just feeling really good about herself.
Yeah, all aspects of her life, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I've got two, and I not to one up Gina with two of them, but because they're so different. The first one is
yeah.
I'll make this in quick, but a guy who came for erectile dysfunction, and if it was a very serious thing for him, and the reason that was a feel good one for me is because I felt like I wasn't sure if he got divorced after this, because that's not what I'm going for, but we found out that basically what it was he came in feeling broken, like there was something really wrong with him. And what he came away from it with is that basically the relationship was very flawed. So it wasn't that that's not to cast blame on the wife or on him. It's that it wasn't that he's broken and he's screwed up and a terrible person. It's that there was something deeper they had to work on. So this guy, very tough, blue collar guy, very the manly man, so to speak, and but very, very nice guy. Seeing him break down because he realized he wasn't screwed up. There was nothing wrong with him per se, but that there was other things to work on with his wife. Because to have that gift that I'm not screwed up, I'm not broken, I'm not messed up. like that's a gift, because if he came in thinking like, I'm screwed up, I gotta fix this so that I can have a good marriage, as opposed to there's a relationship, that whole dynamic shift, you could just see him realize, like, thank God I'm not screwed up in some fundamental level.
So it almost sounds like he's kind of, I'll draw a mechanic parallel. He's trying to change the head gaskets and everything on the engine, when in reality it's like there's a hole in the piston, man. It's not this one piece. It's not just you, or it's not just her. It's, cumulatively, it's much deeper.
Yeah. So it didn't end like on our happy-go-lucky thing, but like seeing that relief that was impacting. That was really, really big. The other one that I thought
in the long run, it probably did them both a favor of not feeling stuck and trapped, in I guess a romanceless marriage.
Yeah, and it felt like a loveless, very blame-ridden marriage, and at that point, at least, he was one who was kind of getting beat up, and that's not to blame her. I have no idea what her story was,
right?
But it did shift it from, I've got to change things because I'm a horrible person who's doing things wrong, to there's something different, the different dynamic they can work on.
Yeah, and the courage to do something about it.
Yeah.
And then you said you had another one.
Yeah, I had a wrestler I worked with. I love working with athletes. Student athletes kids are a hoot, by the way.
Yeah.
But student athletes are a lot of fun. And this was a wrestler. He was a high school senior, I believe it was. And his dad was a doctor, and he was a really good wrestler. But he would get really really anxious before a match. Not so much nervous, but just he'd work himself up into a real tizzy. And then what happened was he would get to his match. He would still win a lot of the matches, but he would be exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a session. This is one where I did like like his coach and his parents were there. It was in like a school room, and these really uncomfortable desks, like from the 1990s. But after the first session, he went from being really nervous and just like doused in sweat and exhausted. So afterwards, his coach is like, yeah, I had to go and whatever his name, like Steve or something, like, yeah, I had to go and like kick Steve awake. Like, hey, your match is over there. Go get over there. Because he was actually taking a nap, and he was just very relaxed and chill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that wasn't as impressive as the fact that generalized to everything. Like, we found out afterwards, his parents and coach didn't know this, but he wasn't anxious about wrestling. He was anxious about everything. Anxious about school, his parents, college, his girlfriend, wrestling, global economics, and that all went away.
Kind of like if he didn't perform, he's going to lose his in all of these aspects. He's going to lose his identity.
Well, like that was his identity, was to be anxious about and worry about everything. And he had a nice family, nice life, but
I mean, obviously, he wants to impress dad, who's a doctor.
Yeah,
there's probably an expectation of academic performance to go to college, or get some type of scholarship, and then he wants to be somebody that his girlfriend can be proud of, hey, I'm dating this person, and feeling like I've got all these plates in the air.
I think even more than that was just his way of being. Like that all may be true. I don't think he was thinking of it on a conscious level as much as the way I do this is to be anxious about it so I can then do it. Mm-hmm. And I think there was I think the anxiety probably served a purpose to get him to be better at it. But he turns out he didn't need that.
It's kind of like the people who procrastinate, wait until the last minute. They need that adrenaline dump to have the energy to just go do stuff.
Guilty. That was me in school.
It still is.
Yeah. Hypnosis can help, Brian, but nah. But that felt really good because I was able to, like, a great kid, great hypnotic subject. I worked with him, I think, 2 or 3 times most. I think it was twice, actually. But for him to be able to have that change as like a teenager in one session and have that generalized globally was huge. Mm-hmm. And that has a potential like wide ranging effect on that kid's life. So I think Shawn is right. If more of us use this stuff like off the bat, like we could change everything about our, I mean, not everything, but we could change our lives in general to a certain degree. And not that everything's going to be Shangri-La, but I think we could do a lot with the world and with our lives and how we interact with it. So,
yeah, I mean, education in general is of course a system. Businesses are systems, and they try to reinforce each other. The problem is not every person fits into a system, and when there's that disconnect, it does go to identity. It does go to just I don't fit in, and so I'm going to withdraw. And I've seen that in so many students over almost 30 years of education, that you need to be able to pull them in, and there's ways to do that are good. The problem is then the next teacher gets them, and the next teacher might think, what, this kid's just not trying. I'm not gonna bother with him, and the cycle starts all over again. And when you get out into the work world, if you have a boss like that,
it probably exacerbates the situation, because the kid's like, I feel like I fell behind. Okay, well, now I got pulled back in, and then now I'm cast aside again, and there's this back and forth, and you're going to the polar extremes. There's no normalcy. There's no what's the word? Not commonality, but there's no stability there.
Yep. And that's exactly it. There's no stability there, and they may have no stability in their home life. Like there are 1,001 reasons why students, don't necessarily succeed. But if we as adults don't reach out to them and don't try, if we don't, get them in time, they go on to the work, and their work life is probably just as turbulent. And so now that affects the business, right? And so now businesses are reaching out to say, hey, like, we know we've got people here that we want to help that have issues. And now we've got the cycle starting all over again. And here we have a way to not just interrupt the cycle, but actually break it.
I like inner child healing a lot, and I think it has a lot of applications. And I think about that with employees a lot. Like, if we just healed our inner child, like, what are we capable of? I think, as an employee, as a student, as a parent, that's one of my favorite.
Have you, Gina, have you noticed over the past decades, I'll even go so far back, a change in how the employees, or even job candidates, are, their communication skills? To me, it seems like they have just absolutely plummeted.
Yeah,
and I say this having worked at a law firm, where you see some of these people that are, especially in tech, these guys are probably in their early 20s, and they call you, answer the phone, hi, law offices of such and such, and they're like, hi, and I'm like, slow down, take a deep breath before you have a stroke. They just don't know how to speak.
Yeah, I don't encounter that myself, but I was talking to a hairstylist not too long ago, and she said that the newer stylists do not know how to carry on a conversation with their clients, and that's a huge part of it. And I thought that was so interesting, because we are in this culture of texting and sending Teams messages and all that kind of stuff. So, fortunately, and I don't know, maybe it's just the line of work that I've worked in, where like human interaction is a requirement. You're doing tons of stuff one-on-one. So I don't know, but yeah, I've heard that before, and it's not surprising to me at all.
Because I'm the digital guy in the school division, I get to work with kids on all kinds of weird projects. So Minecraft, of course, is one of those nice games that you can take, and actually the kids can build something. But as a group, if you are those kids that we do have trouble regulating in class, and are maybe don't have a stable home life, and so you're acting out, we've pulled a couple of those groups together. And I think the best one was the second meeting of this group. One of the kids finally said, as they finally got actually building something, all of a sudden the light bulb went on. Boy, it's hard working with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you got it. Grade 5, you got it. And that's exactly it. Yeah, it is hard working with people, but it's what we have. It's what we have to do to survive. Because if you isolate yourself from people, that never ends well.
And it's reward. It's worth the work. It's rewarding to learn to interact with people. And I think that is getting lost because it's easy to hide behind a screen and say or do whatever you want from anonymity.
They wanted to message. They're sitting right beside each other at the table,
Yeah.
and they still wanted to message inside the game.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because that's more comfortable than turning to your buddy and saying, "Hey, I have a question. I want to build this. Can you help me?"
And there are times I'm out, and you're either in a bar or a restaurant of some type, and you can tell, like, okay, here are the two people on a first date, and they're just in their phones. I'm sitting there going, I can't really speak for the woman in the pair, but I'm just sitting there like face palming myself, going, dude, like, you're blowing it. Like, she's a woman. Like, she's not going to bite hard. Just have a conversation. They're not that scary. And to me, it's just a generational thing. And what's really, really, really scary to me is how much faster I'm turning into my father as the years go by.
Yeah. It's cliche for a reason.
That's a whole nother system that we often do wind up sounding and acting like our parents. Why? Because they're the first imprint that we have, you know, and that stays with us, and unless you consciously, subconsciously actually work to change it, if you want to be and do something different,
I find myself
decisions decide everything.
I often find myself giving the advice that and kind of the same points that my father would make. It's like, look, if you've got a car or a vehicle, like, yeah, there's some upgrades and stuff that you can do to it, but one of the popular things is the kids tuning their expensive cars to purposely backfire when they lift off the accelerator. I'm like, you've got a $60,000 BMW or a Mercedes. You paid somebody really good money to do that? Like, it sounds like garbage. Just
it's cool.
There's a reason, like, oh, you bought these super expensive parts that you're having to replace all the time. What about the stuff that was super high paid engineers designed to work harmoniously together?
Oh, they don't know anything. My buddy down the street, told me this is cool.
Yeah. Now there are some engineers that I want to have you drawn and quartered, but usually at that time I'm laying on my back trying to reach that impossible bolt at this crazy angle, and you get the cramp.
Yeah, we've been there.
But
I hear you. Okay, I want to circle back to one other thing before we get on to the friend or frenemy question.
Yes.
And that is working with athletes.
Yes.
Because the athletic mindset is very much, I think it's very similar to a leadership mindset on a much more personal level. And not just, leadership, but aggressive. There's an aggressive quality to it, I think. That drive to win as an athlete is, I think it's a little more than, if I'm the leader, I need to make sure that I'm doing my best, and usually that means winning. For the company or the people that I lead, versus I'm going out to win.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what's the difference between working with athletes versus individuals, and then maybe corporations, leadership in corporations, companies, and so on and so forth.
Well, athletes have different reasons to be athletes. Some people are, I want to be the best. I want to destroy whoever's in front of me. Some people do it because they want to be part of a team. We all have human needs. I think there's a desire to either win or improve. I think so. A lot of people, in athletics want to, or even like at a CrossFit gym, they want to be the best they can possibly be. Some people just want to enjoy being part of a team. Some people might want to just be part of a group. So there may not be that competitive drive. Some kids are there because their parents want them to be, and there's social pressure. Those aren't going to be your great athletes, obviously. Not that I'm a great athlete, because I'm not, but to answer your question more directly without rambling too much, I think with athletes, what I like about athletes is, one, they're not necessarily, there's nothing necessarily bad, although they can have a stress or anxiety about their job or their sport, but often it's something they enjoy doing. They love doing it, hopefully, and you get to help them be better at it. So there's not necessarily an away from. There can be, they could hate to lose. They could be afraid of getting hit with the ball in baseball, or afraid of, like, they're, someone who's bigger, faster, stronger than they are. But often they want to get better at something they love or want to do good at. Also with fighters, especially if you're going to a match where you know you're going to get hit or bent like a pretzel, and you drive into it and through that, there's a certain mindset to that that's kind of not addictive, but there's something that's interesting to that. There's something positive. It's that I'm going to overcome this obstacle, and my job as a hypnotist is to help you be better at that, to help you persevere, to help you perfect techniques, to help you see things you've done in the past that didn't work out and do better, to help you to future plan, to look at, like, why you're there, how you do the sport, and focus in on it. So I think that's different than a lot of things you get in hypnosis otherwise. So there's often a more positive starting point, so to speak.
Right.
So, and I think that to me is the intriguing part of it, is they will actually seek you out relatively early on, as opposed to, oh my gosh, you're the last resort. So the mindset is already starting from a different spot. And
Yeah.
like, to me, that screams all kinds of success.
Yeah, I want to be great at this. Help me to do the best I can. Great, I can do that. Like, they've got tools physically and mentally. I can help them to take what they're already doing and be better at it.
Yeah. Nice.
What's not to love about that,
Well, and that's the thing. Like, when they look at, their celebrity, testimonials, or stories of celebrities that have gone through hypnosis, Mike Tyson is obviously one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
The fact that in one, I forget which fight it was, not necessarily the one where he was biting, but he
Yeah.
not that one, but he did. I think through hypnosis, the conditioning was that for every time he was punched, he would throw 2 punches. And afterwards, when they went through and tallied up the number of hits, he had 2.3 hits for every one hit that he got. So, I mean, obviously he won the match. But again, it's that piece where I'm going to be the best that I can. Tiger Woods, he was one that used a lot of hypnosis to keep sharp at playing golf, and probably now uses it to avoid back pain as much as possible. But
Probably. Yeah.
All of those pieces there, again, these are people that are looking for, like you said, they're looking for success. They're looking, and they're starting from a different spot. Whereas I think when we look at kind of to bring everything full circle, when we look at a business and the leadership and management, because we kind of touched on it a little bit, but their mindset is often a little bit different than just the other employees. They have some extra responsibilities, so they're looking at this process, I think, in a slightly different vein. They're looking for the improvement, but they also know that in order for their people to improve and experience improvement, they need to step out and be, keep that 1 step or 2 steps ahead of everybody else. So when you're working with the leadership, how is that a little different than working with, I'll say the large group of employees, or the department, or whatever that business structure looks like?
I think leaderships, or leaders in general, have it can present itself in a variety of different ways, what their needs are, I think, to really stand out as a a really good leader. And it could be, just gaining that self-confidence to have those difficult conversations with employees, or even just learning some tools to approach things in kind of a more relaxed state of mind, a more positive resource state to approach any kind of stressful work situation. So I think leaders in general, it's going to be a little bit more individualized, what their particular need is in order to excel in that role. If it's, I think presenting yourself as having a lot of confidence is ideal in any kind of leadership role. You want to be congruent. You want to be able to assure your employees that you know what you're talking about and that they are safe within your hands. And that really falls upon, having that confidence and that congruence with being a leader. So I think that's one example how, this can help somebody in a leadership role versus kind of in a more general line staff kind of a way, if that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Brian, I think it's time.
Oh, please, no. Oh, wait. Okay. All right. Question of the evening that will determine if you guys are friends or frenemies of the show. So we will say true or false. Pineapple belongs on pizza for your personal tastes. Because we've had some people give like, well, I can't discriminate, or tell other what do you guys, are you guys going to eat pineapple on your pizza or not?
I like it.
Are you saying what I prefer or what I eat if it was in front of me?
Preference.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I would order it, maybe once in a while. It's not my favorite.
Pick a side woman. No, I'm kidding.
I wouldn't say it's my preference then. It's okay. I think it tastes good once in a while. I'm not going to go out of my way to order it, though.
All right. Becca was crossing her fingers, hoping that we had some friends.
It sounds like David's a friend and Gina is stuck in Switzerland somewhere or the UN.
That's good. I like it.
But I don't know which sound to play, Brian. Do I play the cheer or do I play the gong? Do I play the...
Oh man, I don't.
I gotta come up with a new sound now.
Yeah, David actually brought up a good point. He's like, "What's my preference, or what would I eat if it was in front of me?" And admittedly, if pineapple on pizza was in front of me and that was my only option, I would pick the pineapple off, eat the Canadian bacon that's on there, and whatnot.
It's got very philosophical for a pizza question.
Yeah,
not arguing and no bashing, but.
Oh, have you ever seen some of the T-shirts that Jim had made up?
That was a great ongoing joke with Jim and the pizza.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's why we were like friend or frenemy. So he started that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I always do apologize. Sorry, Canadian invented it. So, and Jim always used to give me the gears for that. So.
Yeah, well, you also invented hockey. If I'm correct.
Becca says, "Okay, he can stay."
I feel like there was like a slim margin. Like there had to be some debate. Like,
the crown has spoken. It sounds like.
There you go, Gina. You got to pass.
I can vouch. It's not her first choice, but I don't think she would discriminate against it. So.
What was it? Oh, there was a really cool word that I was thinking of. A vast palate, we should say.
Ah, yes. I was going to go with defenestrate, but that's a different kind of word.
A what?
Defenestrate, to throw out a window.
Oh, wow. That's like an $84 word. I'm going to Google that.
Yeah, I was
hold on a second. Spell it.
I was an English teacher back in a former life, a few careers back, and that was one of my professor's favorite word was defenestrate. So
what does that word mean again?
Defenestrate means to throw out a window.
Oh, okay. Like just F all type of a thing, or
Yeah, like a thing or a
okay.
person. I mean, whatever your choice, I guess.
Had
That
to
was the thing
translate
back in
into
the old
veteran
days.
for a little bit.
Yeah, right.
No, that's what was it? Or would I find myself using a lot as salient? And I learned that from an attorney. It was like, I like that word.
Yeah, very very nice.
And all right, so we've
Just,
determined
just,
that.
just keep using the words until somebody like Inigo Montoya comes up and says, "I do not think that word means what you think."
For people on Facebook who say dumb stuff, I am using that meme a lot.
There you go.
And,
Yeah.
Okay. Before we wrap up, of course, we do the hypnosis portion of our show. We do have this, and I always like the way Mike Mandel says this disclaimer, because
you don't want to get sued.
Yeah, I'd like to avoid that.
So, and I actually did have somebody chopping vegetables one day, so I make a point of this. So, disclaimer: hypnosis relies on focus. If you need to focus on your current circumstances, driving, cooking, etc., do not watch or listen to this portion of the podcast. Now, that means if you're live, you can shut it down now. If you are
Come back later
afterwards, make sure you are in a safe spot where you can experience this part of hypnosis nicely and
comfortably.
safely.
Yeah, because if you fall down, we will not know. And make sure you're out of range of stuff that hurts.
No heavy machinery.
Yeah.
I always wonder if there's like this like high percentage of people who would like be watching hypnosis while operating the forklift or something weird. It was like a strange disclaimer, but I suppose you do what you got to do.
Like I remember a friend of mine used to do like over the road kind of long haul trucking cross country with semis, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, I used to listen to books on tape all the time. I'm like, that's a no for me, because I'd be riding along and I just nod off, and it was bad enough driving a Humvee from Tacoma out to Yakima to the training center. It's like a Lego on four wheels, just listening to wind and what sounded like a giant cat under the hood. Just wow, you're topped out. I don't know, mock Jesus, 50, 55 miles an hour. It just you feel like you're breaking the sound barrier, but you're really not. Those were not designed to go on highways.
And I suspect they're also not designed for you to listen to books and podcasts either.
You can't listen to anything. There's a radio that you can't hear, and there's air just desperately trying to get through any little crack or whatever stuff. Canvas doors flapping, and
it sounds like a good vehicle for people who tend to black out. Not blackout, but experience road hypnosis. Highway hypnosis.
It's a constant white noise, and then you're out there, and it's like, okay, it's a warm day and everything, and you're just like, the bias ply tires, so it's just wah 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 wah. You got your own binaural beats as you're going down the road, and I'm like, it's everything I can do to stay awake.
Yep. I have great respect for long haul truckers, and both of our countries are just as wide. So I know I have friends that have driven east and west and north and south, and they much prefer going south.
What I appreciate about your country's truckers is they make sure that government pays attention to them.
Yeah, well, that's still in the courts. So
yeah,
that's okay. Election's coming.
So
that's all I'm going to say about that. But we will turn it over to David and Gina, and it could be something fun. It could be something beneficial. It could be something that you pulled in, and maybe you've done something with a group of people in a business. The floor is yours for the next 15, 20 minutes, however long you need. And yeah, for everybody else, please make sure you're in a nice, safe, comfortable spot. And
buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
Right. So I believe I got nominated for this one tonight. So you're stuck with me, give or take. So I will do something that you can take with you. It's actually I got this. The main bulk of this is from John Overdorf. It's based on his alpha sequence, just to give credit where it's due. And I do say anytime you do this, if you do it for yourself or if you want to do it now as you're listening, either live or on the replay or both, set yourself an intention. If you do this on your own, you could always set a time limit too. But what you want to get out of this, and it could just be to have a nice deep trance experience. If there are any hypno junkies out there, then you already know how to go there. So you can just kind of follow along. I do like to start, this is kind of an aside, but to notice any tension in your body, in your mind, any kind of thoughts that are passing. And what you can do is kind of clench your fists or clench your body to kind of get a sense of what tension feels like for you. Then after a few seconds, just let it go. Again, that's another induction where you get a sense of tension, tightness, and relaxation. And that can sort of lay a blueprint for your unconscious mind for how to relax. Now, obviously, if it's safe to do so, you could close your eyes, or you could, if your eyes open, you could pick a spot in front of you. It's up to you. But just kind of pick a spot either to look at or to focus your attention on, even with your eyes closed. And go ahead and relax your jaw. And relax the back of your tongue. And as you do that, just start to notice what you notice in your own thoughts. Because as you relax your jaw and you relax your tongue, you're actually relaxing the part of your physiology that activates your internal dialogue. So as you just allow that to happen, you may notice your thoughts start to go quieter and to relax. And as you go through this experience, you can be both a part of and yet apart from that body. And just take a moment and scan your body for any tension again. And just notice your own experiences, your own thoughts, or allowing your mind to go quieter. And just allow your awareness to become aware of whatever you're aware of. Because it takes no effort to just have awareness. If there are any sounds around you in the room, you just notice where they're at, what they sound like. You can be aware of the space, both the temperature of the air and the ambient noise. And just allow your attention to move all the way out in front of you. And be aware of the space between that body and the wall and the room you're at. And without any effort at all, you can just allow awareness to move out as far as is comfortable for you. And perhaps imagining what's even beyond that room, on out into space. Just as far as your unconscious mind naturally gravitates. And next, just allow your awareness to begin to move from out in front of you to either side. Whether your eyes are open or closed, you can just be aware of the space around you. Perhaps taking in the sounds and even imagining what's to either side. There can just be that gentle allowing of awareness to move all the way out either side. And being aware of the space beneath or between that body and the walls and beyond. Being aware of the space between my words and your thoughts. And just that allowing of being aware of whatever you notice. And you can just allow your awareness to move next to that space behind the body. Perhaps aware of whatever's supporting the body, being aware of the space beneath you or behind you. And even though you can't see it, you could just imagine the wall or whatever is behind you. And just allow that awareness to keep growing all the way back. You can imagine what you might see, or allowing your mind just to kind of wander in whatever way is appropriate for you. Then taking a moment to allow your awareness to move to that space above the head. Being aware of the ambient space and any ambient noise in the room. And perhaps the temperature of the room, or imagine what the ceiling looks like, or if you're outside, the sky above you. And there can be that allowing of your unconscious mind to allow your awareness to continue to move up, all the way up, just as high as feels comfortable to imagine or be aware of. Then you can allow your awareness to move to that space beneath the body, to whatever is supporting your body, or perhaps the weight of your feet in the ground, or whatever is supporting you. And just allowing your awareness to go all the way down. Just grounding and going as deep in your own experience as can feel comfortable for you now. And then taking a moment to return back to that body and just noticing what's different. Perhaps feeling more relaxed or more centered. Or perhaps noticing any other changes inside. And you can take a moment to deepen your own experience in the way that's right for you now, to get the most out of this experience for your own benefit and your own intention. And then at your own speed, whenever you're ready, you come back to that body, reorienting to the room, perhaps stretching and taking maybe 2 or 3 deep breaths and reorienting back to the room and just noticing what's different from that brief little exercise. And I always find it's nice to not come back to the room until you really start to feel really, really incredible, or just noticing what's positive that's different. Because we don't really necessarily notice what's different that's positive unless we look for it. So it's always nice to kind of reorientate to what's positive, not just what's the same. And I also find it's nice to stretch anyway if you've been sitting for a while, just to kind of wake up the nerves and such.
And as you make your way back into the room, let us know how that was for you. we always get a wide variety of results. Generally hypnosis works for everybody that watches the podcast, but they all get a slightly different experience out of it, and I guess that's the magic of being us. We're all slightly different, and we all experience it in a slightly different way.
And it is kind of cool to go back and look at the comments of a few days later, a week or something like that, where people have had a chance to, especially our followers that we have in Ireland and in Europe and stuff like that, or they just have conflicts on Tuesday nights. It's really interesting to see, like Shawn said, the variety of people. They're like, I've been floating on a cloud, super relaxed, or now I'm super amped up to go, take on life.
Becca's saying that was so relaxing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you definitely have the voice for it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I initially had the Ben Stein voice from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and but
anyone.
But no, that was. Now, how much do you adjust the tone of your voice or your approach depending on what you're doing with each type of client?
Like I said, it's like Ben Stein. No, I think I have my own pattern. I've gotten better at. I think it used to be more of the monotone hypnotic voice, and I think I've gotten better at adjusting that.
Mm-hmm.
When I do hypnosis, it's just kind of that's how I talk. But I think adjusting to how they're responding, like if I can see you in a client session in the room or on Zoom, adjusting to like how they're responding and like if they're what mood they're kind of throwing out, you can kind of adjust that or match it, having rapport. So they seem not irritated, but they seem like they're excited, or if they're, having some conflict, you match that. And then you kind of match as they go deeper or as they relax. That and one thing too, I'll actually give a shout out to Josh Manuel of Fight Mindset, because he's where I got the a lot of the grappling stuff, the fighter hypnosis stuff. But you might if you're working with a fighter or a boxer, you want to match what they're doing. If you're future pacing a match, there's a boxer I worked with a while back, and he was going for a tournament. Well, as you're having him imagine being really being in the zone, being in flow and throwing jabs and counters, well, you say it really relaxed, that's going to mismatch it, right? If you're in a boxing match, there's got to be some, some punctuality to it. There's got to be some matching of what they're doing. And there are times
probably watch a change in their breathing too. Like you see them kind of start mentally getting psyched up and.
Yeah. And if you're pacing them, getting whatever you anchor into it. I do a lot of anchoring with athletes. So they're anchoring aggression, and they can be calm and aggressive, or they can be ramped up. You kind of match whatever they're throwing out there. So that can be an interesting blend. And you want to have rapport. That you want to just, say things in a really relaxed tone when they're jabbing, or they're going for a takedown, or they're doing something athletic.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I know that it is getting late on both of you guys this time, or all three of you.
Yes.
No, we're good here. I'm sure there's another inch of snow on the ground, but that's a different story.
I'm not saying I'm jealous, Shawn, but I'm a little jealous.
What can I say?
We did not get our fair share of snow up here in Washington.
Well, I will ship you some. We'll see if it gets across the border.
Yeah, I think I'd be more jealous if it wasn't in end of April. I don't think I want to be jealous about snow then, but
yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, no, it's
because you guys are gonna kind of shift into spring and then go into a super hot, humid summer, and then all the mosquitoes come out in fall, right?
What happens is this is winter 4.3.1. We'll have spring 2.1.
Right.
Then we'll have sort of spring 1.3, and then we'll get spring for a day. The mosquitoes will come out, and then it'll be summer.
Right.
And that usually happens around June 31st.
and then you have 15 minutes of nighttime. And
not quite. I've been with my dad. Used to work actually on some reservations up in northern Saskatchewan, and yeah, I mean 3 hours of darkness maybe in the dead middle of summer, and it always shocks me when I go to the States and going to Vegas to PHS, and it's almost roughly still a 12 hour split. Like, to me, that's wild, because for me in the summertime the sun starts setting at about 9, quarter after 9 at night.
We get dark about, I think July 3rd at the Nile Shrine Temple of the golf course. They'll do fireworks the night before 4th of July, and they have to wait till about 10 o'clock before they can kick off the show for it to be fully dark.
Yeah. The problem is, here I can see the sunset for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And then God's flashlight is peeking through your window at like 3:30, almost 4 a.m.
3:30 in the morning, the birds start singing.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Terrible.
They're very cheerful.
Yeah, in the summertime, I really don't bother setting an alarm for anything, because I'm like, I'll go back to sleep for a little bit. Okay, it's hot.
Yeah.
So
anyway, for businesses that are looking to get in touch with Work Well Hypnosis, go directly to the website, and they should be able to get in contact with you there. Also, David and Gina have said if you provide your email address to them, they will send you a complimentary hypnosis recording. So that's at no cost, and strategy calls, of course, no cost as well. And we didn't really touch on it, and I don't want to get back into a whole nother interview, but those strategy calls are really, really important. They really serve to lay a foundation for the change work that we do as hypnotists. So,
well, then also one of the questions that I had is, are there any particular industries that you guys are more comfortable in over others as far as corporate? And then how much travel are you guys doing or want to do?
That's a good question. I don't think there's any necessarily that I'm more or less comfortable with, because that could be a cop-out answer, but because it's more about the individual and getting that rapport. Like, I don't think that it matters what your industry is or your problem as much as who you are, and if we have like connection and rapport. For travel, right now we're only traveling regionally and for like hypnothoughts. Right. I'm not opposed to traveling. Most of what we do is either close by or it's done via Zoom. We've definitely done things with people across the world. I mean, I've been doing it long enough where I work with people around the globe to some extent. So,
okay. Actually, you mentioned hypnothoughts. I think
yes,
there's a Heartland that's popping off here in a couple of days in St. Louis. So I know a lot of people are traveling here in the coming days. So for anybody who's traveling to St. Louis, wish you guys safe travels. And then I'll kind of pass it back to Gina. Any industries that you prefer working in or enjoy?
No, kind of to echo what David said was that, I think what we're looking for are people who can develop that rapport with and who are receptive and most of all just interested. We touched a little bit on this, but just the stigma with hypnosis. So, it's always interesting to work with, to talk to people who had like one totally different idea of hypnosis and you change their mind. So even that, it's always nice to meet people at different stages of where they're at and wanting to learn what this is all about too. So yeah, I can't really say there's an industry or a certain clientele that we're looking at working with.
Yeah. Okay.
I like what Jim used to say. He said, I'm interested in working with the people that want to work with Jim Kellner.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing too.
Yeah. I want to work with people that want to work with Jim Kellner too. They sound like a good crowd.
Yeah.
But I think having people that you have rapport with, I saw like Milton Erickson, like he worked with all kinds of people and he was great at like figuring out how to make them work or how to work with them, not make them work. So I think whoever feels like I'm a good fit for them would be a great client, because it's really about the person, not about the corporation or the issue as much as it's about you as a person. So hopefully that's not too much of a cop out, but I think it's generally true.
No, not a cop out at all. I mean, it's an honest answer, and that was, I posed that question just because sometimes people are, like for me, I'm a veteran, so I may identify a little bit closer to with the struggles that veterans deal with, whether it's in the workplace or, some of those stereotypes that you hear about. Whereas,
absolutely,
you're like your niche, your mixed martial art guys and the combatives and stuff like that. And Gina's solid on HR and more of like the administrative stuff. But yeah, I think in the end, it's who's willing to work with you, because a good friend of mine said you can only help the willing.
Yeah.
And if they're not willing, all you've done is led the horse to water, and both of you guys are staring at some water. Wondering when it's time to go home.
It's hard to work with someone who doesn't want to engage with you or who's like fighting you. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's a lot of work, and your odds go down, I think, pretty dramatically. So
yeah, and that's where that strategy call comes in too. That's where how we weed out who's going to be a good fit for our services.
I was curious, when you do corporate, presentations or seminars or whatnot, do you find that the person who's writing the check is like, okay, we're going to make it mandatory fun. We're going to make it so, because a lot of people are like, oh, if it's free, I'll take 3, meaning the company's paying for it. But
a lot of times,
go ahead.
A lot of times, like they'll pay for like the group thing, and then for an individual stuff, that's usually like we had where it's either the person pays for it or it comes like from a paycheck withdrawal thing,
like a HSA or flex spending account.
Could be something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I trying to think if I could answer your question or not. Yeah, I mean, I think it helps. They're still buying, like they're still paying something for it, and for the group thing, like if they're not serious about it, they may not have the results. But usually, I think it's been fun for people. I think they enjoy it, and they, I like to think that I present a decent presentation, and so does Gina. So we try and make it interesting, and then I do try and add some humor and like have them think about why you want to do this, not like I'm forced to because my boss is looking at me funny from the corner and I have to do it.
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, from a boss's standpoint, hey, I'm paying you guys your rate. I want to maximize and get as many people as I can. So it's like they try to force it on people versus, hey, we've got these people coming in and making it voluntary.
I think for us, it's mainly been voluntary. So there hasn't been much compulsion. There's been more carrot and less of a stick, so to speak.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, we try and make it fun and engaging. And I think it's an interesting enough field where people just tend to naturally like it. Or if they don't, you can see the ones where they're not engaging, where they, and you can close your eyes and they look at you, eyes open, unblinkingly.
They're like, I want to see if it works first.
Right. Or they're like, you're not hypnotizing me. I'll fight it, tooth and nail.
Yeah.
So I guess I haven't had much compulsion where people felt like they were forced to, and that's not fun if you were. But they're not people that are willing to and interested and fascinated by it. And especially in a group setting, I think there's strength in numbers. So I think that they can be more secure.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of feel like they can sink into the crowd a little bit.
Yeah. I'm glad that you guys are having that experience where it's more voluntary than compulsion.
Yeah.
But you give a military guy, hey, we're going to give you time off after this and a comp day. You'll have a sellout crowd.
Keep that in mind.
But no. And no, I mean, you guys actually had a lot of really valuable information that I'm trying to digest it going, okay, how can I make stuff work for you, or try to find out that puzzle piece to fit you guys in.
Yeah.
I think there is no puzzle piece. It is actually, they cover the whole puzzle.
Yeah.
I think I think there's certain things we gravitate towards, certain individual niches and certain fields, but I think we can cover a lot.
I'd be curious, like if it would be beneficial or if it's feasible to like reach out to different colleges and stuff and help a lot with like the burnout, like kids get all freaked out over tests and I got to do this or my scholarship's going to fall through, or resist the urge to go out and make questionable life choices with extracurriculars and things like that. But
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a 4-year college in our hometown. And I think we're actually, I don't know if it's still active, but I know at one time I registered so the students get like a 20% discount or something like that on our services. So,
no, that's pretty awesome. Well, wonderful. Well, Captain, do you have anything else?
Nothing from me. I did a quick scan of TikTok. We had probably about 100 or so people roll through the podcast at various times.
Oh, wait. Becca's got a question.
Becca's got the last question.
What kind of phobias have you helped people with?
That's a good question.
If that's something that you guys do.
Yeah, I definitely had a couple of flight phobias. I think those are the ones that come to mind that were actual phobias, like fear of flying. I had one that had a phobia for driving, had a phobia of semis, and I only was able to do one session with her, and it mostly got rid of it. Like she used to like mildly nervous around semis, and she never followed up with it in their appointment. But that was the highway. People drive pretty chaotic on our highways, so that was like a big deal for her. But yeah, the fear of flying, the driving one. I'm trying to think of any other ones I can think of. Those are the 3 that come to mind. Have you had any? If you had any, Gina?
I've not had a phobia.
I want to say I don't know if I had full blown phobias for like bugs or something or spiders. I think I had some like minor ones, but like those were like aversions, not like full blown phobias. The driving and the flying, those were definitely phobia, like full blown.
Actually, I had somebody just recently contact me about their driving, so it'll be one that I work on here in the next little while. But I think if I look at it, we always call it emptying our pockets, which is the quote unquote education term for is there anything left to say? And right off the top, I want to thank both of you for being here. And taking the time and spending it with us and with our viewers. But I think, Brian, you're looking for the what's the fit, and I think the services that you guys offer fit so well in so many different systems that it's
like I was trying to rack my brain out here. My brain's going. I'm like, okay, how could I bring people together?
Yeah.
So
that's exactly it. And whether you work with the kids, the college students, the people that are in the workforce, when you make those changes, Jim Zoom's big goal was I want to touch 1 billion people with through hypnosis. He was real specific about
symbolically touch them.
Yes, but we all have a part in that, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously he wasn't ever going to get to that goal on his own, but through the people that he, through the people that he's worked with, he's met, he's had influence over, that 1 billion doesn't seem like such a far-fetched reality. And you guys have a corner market on all the different levels of clients that could possibly come to you. So. Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
and you're still married, which is
you guys are doing a lot of things right.
Yeah,
and our kids like us too, which I think is actually
the triple threat.
Yeah, a fun quick story before we exit. Our daughter turns 18 on July 17th, and that's the day we have to head out for Hypnothoughts. And I told her, I said, I'm really sorry. I said, Dad and I need to head for Las Vegas on your birthday. And she's like, well, I'm just coming with you guys. I said, well, it's for the hypnosis conference. Yeah. We're probably not going to leave the hotel. I don't care. So that's how she is ringing in year 18. And she's
You're not allowed to drink. Okay, you won't find out.
Yeah. So that's how she is choosing to spend her 18th birthday by flying into the world's largest hypnosis conference, right?
Yeah.
Summer. So
Yeah.
our son's staying behind, but
Yeah.
he'll stay with the grandparents. He has no interest, but yeah.
Oh, when you guys are there, be sure to check out Kevin Lapine's Hypnosis Unleashed show, and
Okay.
I'm sure that he'll do something to make. He'll put her up on stage. it'll be a fun night.
Yeah,
Cool.
for sure we'll
But
do that.
He does a great show.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thanks.
So.
And
Yeah.
Hypnothoughts. Yeah, I always recommend going to Hypnothoughts. Grant and I have talked about it on Hypno News. The smaller conferences, yes, they're really good for connecting, but Hypnothoughts is really good for, I think, the what I'll call the big picture of hypnosis. There's so much there, so many people there with different ideas that you can at least start building on. Connecting to different people. To me, one of the key reasons why Jim and I became as close as we did was actually attending one of his pre-conference sessions, the Badass Hypnosis. I still have it right here.
Yeah.
It says it's certified hypnotic badass. So
Well, it's got his autograph on it, so it's going to be worth money someday.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. All right.
Well, both of you guys, thank you so much for joining us. And
Thanks for having us.
Taking your time and all of that stuff. So.
And Brian and I will see everybody next Tuesday night. Our guest then will be Victoria Gallagher,
Nice.
who has she was supposed to be on actually just a little while ago, and then had some scheduling conflicts. But next week we've got Victoria coming in, and so that's going to be another really great interview. And
Awesome.
Nice.
We'll also mention it also, if you are a hypnotist out there and you have not been on Hypnosis Hero yet, please feel free to connect with Brian and I, and we will definitely work to get you scheduled in over the next little while.
You want to throw your scheduling link up there, Shawn?
I would if I had it. That'll be something that I get right after this podcast.
Awesome.
We'll definitely post it in there, and we are working, like Brian said, to get some of the Hypnosis Hero pages up to speed with things like the booking link and all of that. So again, thank you so much, everybody, for spending some time with us. And we close off as Jim would want us to. Take care, stay well, and be awesome.